Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It's your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly for pricing, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we're discussing a mid-2000s execution of the immortal Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Jumbo. This is the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Extra Thin 15202ST. Mid-F series. It's 39 millimeters in diameter in stainless steel by 8.2 millimeters thick. It measures 48.9 millimeters from lug to lug, and if you include these little intermediate plots, the absolute distance rigidly across the wrist is 51.5 millimeters. Now, this version of the 15202 launched in the year 2000, and it was made through 2011, and there were a few changes in 2011, some of which rather cheapened the watch, so I prefer this earlier version. We'll talk about that more in a moment. But of course, every version of the Jumbo is the closest living relative to the original 1972 Gerald Genta designed Audemars Piguet Royal Oak 5402. And they're very similar in ways that particularly 5711 is not similar to the original Nautilus. This watch is actually similar in all those important respects, mechanically and structurally, to the original Royal Oak, so it's much closer to the core model from the very beginning. So throwing this watch on the wrist, before we get into why it is so close to the original, you can see on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, it is very comfortable. It's super flat. It is indeed extra thin, very comfortable, beautifully proportioned. Every Royal Oak wears larger than its rated size. So though this is a 39, make no mistake, on the wrist, it still does appear broad and flat as though it were 41 millimeters, and it wears that way. So factor that in. If you need a smaller watch in your borderline for a 39, this is not going to be your choice. But I think a wrist down to 14 centimeters circumference is still going to wear this watch really well. Okay, let's take a look at the bracelet, because it takes 9 to 11 hours just to hand finish this steel bracelet. This is a big part of the design of the watch and also the appeal of the watch. You can see there's an expanding bevel that flares over the lug hoods, and that bevel continues all the way down the shoulders of the individual links. There's satination across the top. There's also polishing of the ends of the intermediate links. And you can see polishing those interfaces, it's only visible when you roll the bracelet through the light. And this attention to detail is the reason you buy a Royal Oak. Every small piece of the watch becomes a work of art in its own right. Now, there have been a couple of different clasps on this model. You can see that this version is the high polish logo style single fold deployant, and it has a trigger release externally. You pull that trigger to engage or disengage. Unlike the modern Patek Philippe Nautilus, all of the removable links are fixed by screws, not pin sleeves. And as you can see, the case has not changed a whole lot since 1972, and that's to its advantage. Now, I mentioned that recently the Royal Oak's been cheapened a little bit. One way that they cheapened it is in 2017, when this monoblock case design, in which the case back itself is part of the mid case. There's actually no seam. It's not screwed on, snapped on. The back of the case is the mid case, contiguously. But not since 2017. Since 2017, the watch has had a conventional three-piece case with a bezel, a mid case, and a case back, just like the 5711, and AP did that to save money. This one is built the old-fashioned way, the fashion in which Gerald Genta designed the watch back in '72, which is why I prefer this version of the 15202 over the newer ones. You can see that the bezel, always the focal point of this watch, it's a rounded octagon inspired by a vintage diving helmet. You can see that there are hexagonal screws in white gold, or they're bolts, really. They're not screws. They actually have a counter-threaded attachment on the back, a nut and a bolt. And the bolt is visible. That's how they're able to align the slots around the dial. You can also see that the same form, hexagonal, is used for the crown, which is a push-down. The watch is 50 meters water-resistant, but I don't recommend swimming with a 50-meter push-down crown. You can see that the bezel gasket is expressed. It's not entirely hidden underneath the bezel, and that was one of the original styling features of the watch, to make it look a bit more like a machine. You sort of bring some of the industrial components from the inside out, so you let that bezel gasket be a styling feature of the watch. You can see how the octagon is sort of rounded off at its edges, and there's a sharp break between the satin of the bezel top and the polish of the flank. The watch features the Grande Tapisserie dial, which is the smallest of the Audemars Piguet hobnail dials, and this, as well as the Grand version, are both finished on a pantograph. The Royal Oak Offshore uses a stamped dial. This one is finished the old-fashioned way on a pantograph lathe. So if you look very close to it, there are tens of thousands of little bumps and textures. It's not just the hobnails. There's a lot on them and between them. The logo, the hands, as well as the hour indices are made of white gold to resist tarnish and oxidation. And this version has the blue galvanized dial that's always been the rarest of the standard production models because the rejection rate for these dials has always been high with the blue galvanizing. It's difficult to get them both even from side to side and consistent from batch to batch. So they're generally reserved only for premier retailers and more recently AP boutiques. You know, it's an early 15202 because it has these little Arabic numerals outside of the hour indices, and the date disc is also non-matching to the dial, and the logo is at 12 instead of down at 6. So quite a few things changed in 2012, not always for the best. This lovely pre-2012 rotor is absolutely my favorite rotor ever featured on a Royal Oak. You can see that it is an AP logo. The rotor has been entirely skeletonized and then internally finished with sharp bevels, and you can see that it features 3 devil tail-like external tips between the A and the P, that little structure in the center. The external tips are razor sharp, and that is extraordinarily difficult to do. Now, if you look at that rotor in a current 15202, it is a much more industrial and loveless product. So this alone endears this generation of the watch to me. Now, you can also see that it's adjusted in a high horology standard 5 positions, also a chronometer standard, and that it pivots on 36 jewels. Taking a look at the movement itself, it is the JLC 2121 based on, well, it's the Audemars Piguet 2121 based on the JLC 920 Abauche from 1967. The original base movement was designed by JLC for AP, Vacheron, and Patek. It was never actually used by JLC, so it remains a movement exclusive to those high horology brands. Today, Audemars Piguet builds this movement in-house, and it has for over 20 years. So this is an in-house caliber. It's free-sprung with a Gyromax-style balance, and that gives it a little bit of stability against shock, though it's not a super tough movement. Its main calling card is its thinness. It's 2.4 millimeters thick without the date. The watch beats away at 19,800 vibrations per hour, which shows that it's a product of the 60s. That's a little slightly, one can call it an anachronistic beat rate, but the movement is both handsome and accurate, and with a 40-hour power reserve unidirectional automatic winding, it remains one of the finest high horology ultra-thin calibers out there. The timepiece does feature a higher degree of hand finishing than you'll find on, say, an Audemars Piguet 3120 movement or the new generation of chronographs and automatics. There is a higher degree of finish on these 2121s and 2120s than you're going to find on the mainstream movements. That's present in the quality of the anglage on the edge of the bridges, on the jewel and screw countersinks. All of the screw heads are black polished on the top. They're broad Côte de Genève across the bridges. There's engine turning on the base plate and satination on all the wheels. Plus you have that delightful rotor. And if you look carefully, you can see the rotor is annular. It goes all the way around the movement, and it's made of beryllium. There's a mass on one side, but the rotor goes all the way around the movement. It pivots on 4 ruby roller jewels, one at each of the 4 corners, to prevent the rotor from coming in contact with the bridges or the base plate. That allows the watch to be extra thin. Reach out to Tim Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And I'm back with the Royal Oak Extra Thin, the Jumbo by night.